In the mid-90s, I talked to a couple, John and Juanita, who used to be Christians but then switched to a New Age movement called A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is a comprehensive psychological spiritual approach to life which seeks to replace fear and ego with love and to replace separateness with unity. Its ultimate goal is inner peace. It's been popularized by Marianne Williamson in her book, A Return to Love. Williamson became well known for her frequent appearances on the Oprah Winfrey Show. She was actually a presidential candidate in 2020. You may remember her. Some regard A Course in Miracles as New Age psychobabble, and I think some of it is. But it also has some very good points. Here is a brief summary of the main ideas of A Course in Miracles, followed by my conversation with John and Juanita. Newsweek writes, quote, "The Course holds with other mystical manifestos that all the material world is illusory. The source of unhappiness is the mistaken sense of separateness from others. That in turn causes us to hate and condemn others. The way to happiness, the miracle, is the change in perception that lets us replace fear and loathing with love and forgiveness." Unquote. A Course in Miracles teaches the popular New Age concept that we are all of the same essence. We are all like waves on the ocean or sunbeams from the sun, not separate, but one. It puts Jesus on a high pedestal, but claims there is truth in all religions, and there are many ways to God. Of course, those of us who have read the Bible carefully know that that is a contradiction to Jesus' own presentation. Jesus said he was the only way. "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Some of Jesus' teachings were New Age in nature, miracles, utopian ideas, forgiveness, but his basic theology was not New Agey and tolerant. In Jesus' theology, we are not all forgiven and okay in the end. There are sheep on one side, and there are goats on the other who are sent to hell. Read Luke 17:26-36, where Jesus speaks of fire and brimstone raining down from heaven, if you think Jesus was a warm, fuzzy New Age thinker. So I think a fundamental contradiction in A Course in Miracles is its espousal of non-judgmentalness, while at the same time revering the very judgmental figure of Jesus. However, despite some questionable concepts, I think A Course in Miracles has some very good insights and can be quite helpful in getting people to relate to others more tolerantly and to live happier and more positive lives. Here's my conversation with John and Juanita.
We both started off as Catholics, and then we became born-again Christians, and I spent 20 years in born-again Christianity.
Wow.
Very active in it the first 10 years of it. Very active. That was in my early 20s, and I was having a lot of problems with, I'm an alcoholic too, sober alcoholic, and I was having a lot of trouble with booze. And then I tried to find some help within my Catholic religion, and it just seemed like it just wasn't helping me. I was looking for something else, you know.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine was just, that I used to drink a lot with and party with. So he said, "Why don't you come to church with me in this new church, in Fundamental Church?" And I went, you know, just because I was kind of desperate. And I bought the plan of salvation there, you know. I felt like I was betraying something. When I was a kid, Catholics was it, and anybody else was poor people.
Second class.
You know, like you don't hang around Protestants. So what happened was I got so involved in it, I jumped in with both feet, and I became a bus captain picking up kids, and I became a Sunday school teacher, and I became eventually became a youth director, had a prison ministry, got very active in teaching the Bible, and I didn't change much except, I mean, the drinking was still there, still there, you know. Yeah. In fact, I took on even more guilt than I ever knew, because now I was teaching Sunday school and going with a hangover, and teaching 5 and 6 year old girls Sunday school lessons, which I studied for and knew the lesson, but that Saturday night I ended up getting polluted, and I'd be in there standing in front of this classroom and feeling like a piece of garbage, you know, because I was preaching something that I wasn't living. The power of Jesus wasn't evident in my life. But you know, and I went on like that for quite a while until I just says, that's it. You know, I can't go on like this anymore.
And now you left fundamentalism.
Well, I didn't leave actually. Well, I stopped going to church and I stopped being active.
Just gradually over the years.
I still took on that I was a born-again Christian, and I was saved through the blood of Christ, and I could never lose my salvation, but I wasn't active in it anymore. What made me leave the church is I was in a church one day. We were going to a small fundamental Christian church up here, and they had some people in there. There's a preacher for some what do you call them? When they go
missionaries.
They had a missionary in, and the guy says that this way he was preaching about money and how he needs to support the prayers and everything, and all the people that like 1 million people a day died with something like that, and they were going to help because they haven't heard the word, and it just hit me that day that I don't buy that anymore. You know, it just I didn't buy that anymore. I couldn't buy that God was like that anymore. That was the key thing for me. And I bought it for 20 years without even giving it a second thought. You know, I mean, I just bought it. I mean, like, I didn't even question it. I mean, look, either you get, this is the only way of salvation. Either you get this or you're screwed. You know,
like Christians stick with Christians. You know, it's like everybody else. If you weren't a Christian,
they teach separation, not joining. And that you know, of course, I didn't see that. Now I see it, because now what I believe is joining and not separation. But like the born again Christianity teaches separation.
They don't put it that way, but that's what it ends up as.
What led me to the way I believe today is being in a lot of 12-step groups over the years. Being in AA for 15 years and being in a lot of AWOLs and 12-step groups where being in there and working on myself over the years, I had come to a place where I realized from doing all this and from really working on myself that love was the answer to everything. That no matter what the question is, love is the answer. I had come to that, and I realized it. From whatever I realized it, I realized that was the key to my problems. We don't see our God as a judging God, a judgmental God. We see him as a loving God, and his love, the way he is the way we are, and the more we live that way, the more peace we have.
Right.
You see, people, I was leery of this at first because I figured the more I love people, the more they're going to shit on me. Okay? And what I found was the way I treat somebody else is the way I get treated back.
Right.
That's what I found out. You see? I mean, I've been a bully all my life. I mean, I'm not...
Bully, a controller, you name it.
I mean, a fighter, a boxer, everything. You know, I mean, at times in my life, this is what I've been. I've always been a very physical person, because I'm small, and I had to make in my own head, in my own ego, I had to show people that they couldn't push me around because I was small, and so I grew up fighting on the street all the time to prove a point, and all the time I didn't realize it. The only thing I was scared. I didn't want anybody to know it. So if I show you that, don't mess with me, maybe you won't, and I'll be all right. And it's because the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. You see? And so love is letting go of fear.
Just like when I see a person attacking me, I look at them as a fearful person.
Yeah.
And when
Not
they don't attack back,
There's no judgment there.
they don't know how to handle it. They'd rather me attack back.
I'll give you a quick example. Now, I work out up here at the gym right up here, right? And I was on this is just a few days ago. And I'm on a treadmill, right? And what happened was you have to sign up for this treadmill, right?
Yeah.
I went to get on. I was signed up for 4:30, and this guy get on at 4:15, which you're not supposed to do. Half an hour increments, 4:35. This guy get on, and I went over at 4:30. I says, "Excuse me," I says, "I'm signed up for this at 4:30." He says, "Oh," he said, "I'm in the middle of my workout." And I says, "I know, but I'm signed out for this at 4:30." And he says, "Well," and the girl just left on the other treadmill. There was another one, and he says, "Take that one." He says, I didn't get on this till 1:15, and I'm not getting off it and all this, and of course, my old self is like, just yank him off the thing and beat his head in, and that's the first thing that comes across my mind. How dare this guy even,
What's his name on top of mine?
doesn't he know who I am, type thing, but I mean, that's what I used to come from. And now I says, okay, I get on this, and I'm on this treadmill side of the guy now, and the guy's saying to me, I said, look, I'll get on the other treadmill. I said, I'll sign up for this. I said, you're wrong, but I'll do it. And I get on it, and the guy the guy says, what do you mean I'm wrong? He says, you're right, you're too rigid, you're too this, you're too that. And I knew the only way I was going to diffuse this was with love. That's the only way I was going to do it, because I've been in this now for a while, and I know that. My ego kept telling me, don't take this shit. You're right, he's wrong, why should you give in? He's the guy. Plus, you look at this guy, you know you can kill this guy. And that's the ego talking, the insane ego, the attack ego, the judgmental ego, the one that has to defend yourself, and all this stuff, right? And so I said, he kept going, I says, you're right, I'm sorry, I says. And as soon as I said that, he stopped in his tracks. I don't mean moving, but in his mouth. Yeah. And that's all I said to him, right? And I just went about my merry way, and the guy just never said another word to me. Just never. I just stopped in his tracks. He didn't know how to handle that, because he'd rather fight for who's right rather than. Because I started realizing who this guy really is. He's not this ego that's talking to his ego. He's my brother, who's the same as I am, who's the Christ also. You see, I don't believe that Jesus Christ is the only Christ. I believe that you're the Christ. She is the Christ. I am the Christ. I believe that the Christ are the children of God, and we and God are one. So this man becomes now, I see him in his divinity rather than in his ego.
Okay, all right, look, I'm swallow some more. Now, what if the same guy does the same thing again? You going to do the same thing again?
He didn't do the same thing again, but I just seen him yesterday, and I wasn't finished with the story. I went down into the locker room later on, and he came in while I was in there, right? And I was taking a shower, and it was the only shower left, and he came and he was waiting outside my shower stall, and I says to him, the ego again popped up in me. I knew it was him out there. I says, well, let me see. And this guy here made me wait on my treadmill, and I know he's waiting for this shower. I'll just take all I want. I'll be in here for a half an hour, and I'll pay him back. But then that's the ego. The ego's always there. Always. That doesn't go away. But, then I realized, wait a minute. I've already made peace with this. This man is my brother. And I the way I feel about him, if I resent this guy, I'm going to feel resentful. If I don't resent this guy and forgive him, I'm going to have inner peace. I got up, came right out of the shower as soon as I was done. Not rushed for him, but as soon as I was done, I took care of myself, and I came out without any. He was there. I said, it's all yours. He says, thank you, right? And I've seen him yesterday and day, and the same thing. He treated me like, hey, how's it going? And all this. And I didn't
completely change.
So,
I mean.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great story. I think it's a good insight, and it's one of the things that attracted me to Christianity in the first place. Is that I think that's a very Christian way of dealing with stuff. But
that's not a Christian way, by the way. I mean,
I think Jesus. Well, Jesus said, "Love your enemies." That's kind of what he meant.
It's not just a Christian way, though. It's the truthful way. It's the way, the real way. Okay. And a lot of other Hinduism and a lot of religions around the world outside of Christianity teach that.
Okay.
Even more so.
All right, but my problem is you got to start drawing lines though, because otherwise, say you live with this person, he's a roommate of yours or something, and he's constantly taking advantage of you. And his reaction is, I can do anything I want with this guy. You know, I can drink his milk and I can.
No, it's not.
You
It
don't
doesn't.
become a wimp.
No, we don't.
You don't respect wimps.
We don't say, you know, you're the Christ, I'm the
Yeah.
Christ. Do what you want. I can't be hurt. We don't
Right.
do that.
Okay.
No,
All right. So you do
no.
draw a line somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, the line
Speak
though
how
is
you speak.
you can do whatever you have to do to take care of yourself. The only thing you can't do is unforgiveness. You can't hold a grudge.
I noticed you said Mingus.
Italianus.
I grew up in Lawrence, and all my friends used to.
We're from
Valley.
Lawrence,
Yeah.
too. We're from Lawrence.
Yeah. All my friends always said Mingy. I used to say it. Funny.
Yeah. It teaches that you and I are one, and what I feel about you is how I feel about myself, and that's very important.
Boy, I mean, there's an element of truth to that, but I don't know if you can say it like
What I give out, I get back. Whatever I give out, I get back.
as a general principle, but not necessarily.
You keep saying that.
Let me wait. Stop. When I was 6 years old, I was at a Salvation Army camp, and there's a lot of poor black kids in the same camp, and I was just being friendly to this little black kid, and I was saying hi or something. And he called off and he belted me in the stomach. Couldn't even breathe for like 2 minutes afterwards. Then he took off, and I was like, what was that all about? And it was just black and white thing. He thought I was making fun of him or something. I don't know what. I don't know what he was thinking, but it was because I was white, basically. So you just said what I was giving out friendliness, and I got back a punch in the stomach. So
From him, you get back a punch in the stomach. But
No one
But
said it was
you-
a fair world.
you,
well, no, he didn't. He just said it. He said it
That's
was
right.
what you give out, you get back.
That's right.
So you don't.
And you got that back in many other ways. You know, I can't tell you because I don't know all about your life. But if you really looked at it, you have got that back in many other ways and from many other people. You don't have to get it from him, you know.
Right,
Yeah.
get it from
I'm
somebody
just
else.
saying that that's the way God set it up.
Okay, all right. So you understand it as like a
You
general
reap what
principle,
you sow before
not
I speak.
okay, but not as a literal thing that always works.
Me treating you with a lot of love. Maybe you're not getting it right now. You're not well enough to give it back to me. But I'm going to get it back. You know, it doesn't have to come from you. But I'm going to get it back in other ways.
Yeah, I think that's a good insight. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a general.
And I will get it back from you somewhere, somewhere, because it's gonna. See, love never goes in vain. Love doesn't go. Love is so powerful.
I don't think you shouldn't say never goes in vain.
It doesn't. See, you're looking at everything like you want payment right away. You want, like if I give you love, I want it right back right now. That's not love. That's not love. See, that's some conditional. There's a condition. That's not love. Love is without condition.
The only I keep having a problem with it because as much as I agree with it as like general trends and principles, you know, I think of Hitler invading Poland. Now, if all the Polish people were nice to Hitler, that's how we. I think Hitler had to be stopped. So somewhere.
Why are you
always
judging
did.
Hitler so much?
Because he killed
You know what?
Yes,
I'll
what
tell
he
you what.
did. You
6
weren't even
million people.
around.
Well,
Why did he let the Lord, you know, he's
No,
gonna go
he-
to his next journey, right where he left
Yeah,
off
but in the
with this one.
but he's caused so much suffering though.
Well, I mean, you know, there's a reason for everything.
That
No, see, well,
unforgiveness you
no.
have toward Hitler,
Yeah.
believe me, is more does more
It's
to you than
stopping
you
you
know.
from growing.
No. See, here I really disagree with you. I don't think it's stopping me from. I mean, I would.
Yeah, because you have all your doubts because of this. You can't go on and grow in life because you're too busy wondering, well, how come you're analyzing, nitpicking, and, you know, I'm like that too. I like to analyze and stuff. But as long as you're focusing, well, this can't possibly be true because way back then, Hitler did this one did that, this one did this, and, you know, you're never going to grow. Stop
I don't think it's
questioning all the
keeping
things
me
and
from
take
growing.
care of you. Who cares what everybody else did?
Because I care. Because love demands that you care about other people, and if 6 million people are killed.
Love does not demand anything. Does not demand.
Oh, it does. It does.
Love is unconditional. There's
If
no
you
demand.
love me and I'm about to get this chandelier fall on my head, and you just let it,
That's
love
not
demands
love.
you stop that.
That's not what we're talking about here.
No?
Not love.
No.
Well, love means looking out for the welfare of somebody else.
There are no conditions for love. Love just is.
Yeah, see, I don't know, that gets too fuzzy for me.
I do not believe in unconditional love. I do not believe in unconditional love. I believe in conditional love. One condition, that you be a kind human being. If you're a kind person, I will love you. If you're not a kind person, I will not love you. I will love you in the sense of wanting what is good for you, but I will not love you personally. I will not like you, and I will make a judgment. I think A Course in Miracles pushes non-judgmentalness too much. Life is made up of an unceasing flow of necessary judgments to be made, and the goal is to make fair, sensible judgments, not being overly judgmental on the one hand, nor overly tolerant on the other. Something else I learned about love is this. There's no such thing as passive love. You cannot say you love the goldfish and not feed them.
You see, I'm not leery of you at all because you're my brother and I can't be hurt anyways. You know, see, so I can relax with you.
Yeah, but now if I pull out a gun and rob you now, that's still...
You rob me. You take what I got in my pocket, right, and you go. All right, so, I mean, it means that you must need the money more than I do. That's what it means. And it means that you are a little sicker than I am because I wouldn't do that. It means that you know. It means that you're a confused guy. You know. It means a lot of different things.
But also means.
But it doesn't mean I'm going to resent you. You see, it doesn't mean I'm going to hold unforgiveness to you. Somebody stole my car right out of that driveway one day, right?
Yeah.
They stole my car out of the driveway, and the first thought I had was, I got to get these people. But then I thought about it and says, wait a minute, because I was like a raving maniac. And then I thought about it, and I decided that those people were confused, and I just started praying about the people, that God would take care of them, watch out they don't get in an accident and things like that. And I just refused to judge them. You know, I just refused to judge them. Because I had let them off the hook. And when I let them off the hook, I got off the hook. As long as I was resentful toward them, I was pissed. I had no inner peace. When I let them off the hook, I get off the hook. When I got them off the cross, I came off the cross. You see, when I let them out of jail, I didn't have to be there to watch over them. And I was free.
Because every day you'd be sitting here going, those bastards. They didn't get caught,
if I
you
ever
know what
get
I mean?
the
It would be
bastards, you know,
eating away at him.
You know, and I loved that car, and I just got it. You know, it was a beautiful car. And I can go through all the different things. But you know, the best thing to do is to just kind of like...
Take it simple. So they sold the car, big deal.
And I started feeling, I started actually feeling for these people that I don't even know. I started feeling something for them.
I think it's very important that you feel for people who are deserving as opposed to people who are jerks and not deserving. People who steal cars are jerks. They don't deserve much love.
They're jerks, but that's not who they really are.
Right.
No, I think it is.
That's all right. But I mean, that's not how I feel. You know, I mean, I'm not saying, don't get me wrong. I have an ego, like you, just like everybody else, and it still wants it doesn't want me to believe the stuff I'm saying. I mean, I don't have this down pat, and I'm not perfect, and I'm not a great guy, but better than anybody else, because thank God, that was the best part of this. I finally didn't have to be below anybody or above anybody. I finally became one with everybody. And you reap what you sow. I mean, we know this is not a fair world.
Yeah.
We know the world
wait a
is
minute,
not
you just
fair.
said you reap what you sow, but this is not a fair world. That's not contradictory right there?
So,
Let me tell you two little quick stories to see what your reaction is. One is I went to a Radio Shack one day, and I was waiting to pick up a thing for a group home that I worked in with mentally ill people. And he said, oh, he used to work with mentally ill people or teenage truants or whatever it was. And he got out of it because he invited one of them who had no family to come and be with his family at Christmas. And the kid was very touched into tears and told him how much he appreciated it, and then stole his TV. That's one story. The other story is a woman used to be a secretary for my father years ago, picked up a hitchhiker because she was a very nice, kindly old lady. The hitchhiker, when he got off, gave the lady a lecture. Don't you ever pick up another hitchhiker. I was, the only reason I didn't mug you, because he had intended to mug her, the only reason I didn't mug you was because you seemed so nice. So the second story there, loving somebody actually changed them, at least for that night. First story, these are true stories, it didn't work. Showing love to this kid.
Well, why didn't it work, though? Why did you say it didn't work?
All right, because he stole his TV. All right, so you think it did work,
you think that TV
despite the fact.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
it's a TV. You're talking about a material, lousy thing like a TV. What's more important, inner peace or a TV?
Yeah,
That's what you gotta look at.
But he didn't receive. He gave out love, and he didn't.
I
He got love back, but he lost his TV. All right.
Listen, you ever hear of Bread and Roses?
Is that a group or is
Lawrence.
that? Oh no.
He's homeless.
Oh.
You feed the homeless, okay?
He feeds
Okay.
the homeless.
Now, I do a few stunts a month at Bread and Roses. Okay? I've been doing it for a while. And when I serve the food and everything, and you stand up there, and at 5 o'clock they let the people in. Now these are people that are homeless, drug addicts. They stink. Some of them are terrible looking. Now these people, I could never be there doing what I'm doing with the compassion that I feel for these people if I'm judging them.
Right.
It's impossible. In fact, I would look at them and say, what? I'm not doing this. And I don't get paid for this. Look at these people. They don't give a shit. Look, half of them aren't even grateful. I mean, this guy shit his pants over here, hell out the bottom of his pants. I got to swab that up. I got to clean that up. I mean, this guy is yelling, I want more bread. I mean, you can get into that part of it. Or you can look at them as in a different way. It's all in that perception, that slight perception. And when I leave there, I feel like somebody just gave me $1 million every time I leave there. And I work my ass off for 4 straight hours. I wash more pots and pans and do more. But man, I'll tell you, the highest thing I ever felt is when I leave there. I just feel like, and some, you go up to them, you sit down with them, and it stinks, but this person's your brother. It's just like, he's no different, me talking to him than talking to you. And this guy probably hasn't worked in 10 years. This guy's probably on the skid row. This guy, if you look at it, this guy doesn't deserve any of this. I mean, he made his own hell. I mean, nobody told him to get drunk. Nobody told him to drink. Nobody told him to leave his family. Nobody told him, If you look at it through the eyes of love, though, you don't see none of that. All you see is another human being in front of you. That's what you see. And he is the same as I am. There's no difference between us. We are one. That wasn't possible for me before the Course in Miracles. It wasn't even possible in a thought, never mind to do.
Everybody responds to love. I don't care where it is. I see that so much at work. I mean, AT&T is such a big place, and there's people in there that say, Juanita, how do you talk to that person? That one's there a little off the wall. That guy's so dysfunctional and everything. And you just show them a little love and show them you care, or maybe even put your arms around them and say, how are you? They just become a different person. They really do. I mean,
you can't love somebody in vain.
All right, I gotta wait for this bird to stop squawking. I've loved somebody in vain. I tried to do what was best for the person over a long period of time, and it was all in vain. She never got it. Love is powerful, but some people won't change no matter what. To categorically say you can't love somebody in vain is an overstatement.
People like Hitler
his image.
must have had a very, very lonely childhood with very little love in his life to get so.
But it still doesn't excuse him.
He might have been beaten every day. You don't know.
Sure, but the other people got beaten every day, but they didn't do what he did.
He became sick. He became very sick.
Very sick.
He probably didn't want to do it, but he was so sick in the head.
You know what made him sick is his unforgiveness. That's what made him sick. his unforgiveness.
And how he was brought
He
up.
never dealt with the way he was brought up. He probably never forgot gave his parents. I mean, this is all big stuff to do in your adult life.
It has a lot to
I mean,
do.
if you haven't forgiven your parents, I mean, it's
Can't
hard
get
to
on with
move
your
on
life.
from that.
Right,
Everybody's got to
yeah.
do that, right? I mean, you agree with that, right?
Yeah, I have nothing really to forgive my parents for.
Well, thank God.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people.
Very few people can say that, you know.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
I had good parents.
I mean, I had a father that I love him today. He's 80 years old. He beat me all my life. He was still throwing punches at me when I was 40 years old. Okay? And I wasn't supposed to raise my hands. It took me to 40 years old to realize that, hey, wait a minute, this guy's my father, but that doesn't mean he can do this to me. I mean, that's how much of a thing it did to me all my life. But it wasn't until I forgave him for all that I could move on with my life. And it wasn't until I forgave him that he stopped doing it. I never.
So he didn't repent of doing it until after you forgave him?
That's right. He repented after I forgave him.
Yeah.
I'm convinced to this day that if I never forgave him, I still felt the way I did, he'd still
He wouldn't have repented.
see me as nothing but somebody who's caused him trouble all his life.
Yeah.
He don't see me that way anymore. And he doesn't see me that way anymore because I don't see him that way anymore.
I think some of A Course in Miracles teachings are just wishful thinking overstatements. I note that Helen Schucman, the author of A Course in Miracles, was influenced to some extent by Christian Science. And Schucman's book definitely has the same air of wishful thinking about it, expressing the idea that evil doesn't really exist, it's only in the mind. The Course specifically says, quote, evil does not exist. And I think dismissing evil as not real is a very bad idea. In one of Marianne's YouTube videos, she brings up the sorrow of 9/11, but advises us not to despair. God is on this.
But the nature of the universe being the handwriting of God, the reflection of God's mind, is such that the moment we get off track, the Holy Spirit is already activated like a GPS to recalibrate. So the moment the World Trade Centers were hit, anything going on in our world today, you know, it's very tempting. If you look at what's going on on our planet today, what's going on in our country today, it's very tempting from an ego perspective to feel hopeless, to feel anxiety, to feel despair, to feel anger. But from a spiritual perspective, God's on this. God's not saying, man, I'd love to help you, but...
Well, yeah, one should not despair, but to say God is on this is meaningless. He let it happen. He let 3,000 people die. Instead of maintaining the fond fantasy of God's omnibenevolence, a much more reasonable conclusion is to say that if God exists, he is predominantly non-intervening. Marianne says, as we close our outer eye, we open to the light which is within. In the presence of this light, every cell is revitalized and restored. Well, that's a nice thought, but that's not true if you have cancer. Again, an overstatement. Again, wishful thinking.
Be teaching those principles, telling stories about how they've applied in my own life and how they've been applied in the lives of people that I've witnessed, that I've seen. And I've in my own life and in the lives of people that I know, I've seen these changes from pain to peace, from fear to love, and from the worst kind of stuckness and entrenched emotion and psychological patterns that just keep us bound in our lives to something free, something open, something new, and something happy.
Many of Marianne's comments are fuzzy, but often poetic, uplifting, and they might well be true in some way. She says, we will be lifted to a collaborative matrix. God himself is dreaming through us, and our humanness rises to receive that. We are conduits through which God's thoughts are extended throughout the world. That's an example of the type of fuzzy things she says. But she does express a lot of good ideas, like We need to stop trying to manipulate others to get them to do what we want and spend more time appreciating the present and letting things happen organically, like not being small-minded or self-centered, like trying to consistently approach life with an attitude of love. Though I don't agree with her utopian view of how the world and human nature interact, she is trying to make the world a better place.
If you had to pick one thing that made you leave Catholicism and then one thing that made you leave Christian fundamentalism, what would be the key thing? Was that
Right,
probably the
yeah.
biggest thing?
It's
The judgmentalness of it.
Yeah, that's the
In
answer.
both of them,
It's
Catholicism
the
and...
same answer to
yeah.
all of it, I think. You know,
Uh-huh.
it's a thought system based on fear that
Yeah.
teaches separation,
Okay,
rather than a thought system based on love that teaches joining.
yeah, but then how do you view Jesus then?
Huh?
'Cause how do you view
I
Jesus?
view
Because he
Jesus
was kind of
as my
intolerant.
older brother.
Yeah, but he was judgmental.
Well, where do you get that from? I just believe that a lot of that stuff has been so reinterpreted and
Yeah.
so taken out of context that you can't take a verse like that today and say, well, what about this?
So would you say that the Jesus that you think existed was tolerant?
I believe that he wasn't judgmental. I
Wasn't
believe
judgmental.
he didn't condemn people. He might have condemned actions, but he didn't condemn people. He might have got angry at some people for the way they did things, but he didn't hold it against them and have resentments toward them and be judgmental.
If Jesus' displays of tolerance and mercy were genuine, he would not have taught the fundamentally judgmental doctrines of original sin and hell. I think he was basically contradicting himself, trying to have it both ways, in playing the role of the all-compassionate one, while at the same time preaching inordinately severe doctrine. Hell is as judgmental a doctrine as you can get. From what limited exposure I've had to A Course in Miracles, I find it too idealistic, too utopian in its claims, and like Eastern religions, too accepting of injustice. There's too much of a don't sweat it, that's the way things are attitude. Too much of an emphasis on let's be understanding and accepting, rather than let's get upset and do something about this injustice. I think the demands of justice ought to be greater than the priority of avoiding inner turmoil for yourself. I think there's not enough compassion for victims. We can't afford to expend so much compassion for criminals. I think an across-the-board, non-judgmental attitude is a big mistake. All people may potentially be creatures of love, but many choose not to be. Judgments must be made. I agree that love is where it's at, and it is, in some sense, the answer to everything. But love ain't gonna fix Adolf Hitler. We need to fix our problems ourselves, not have faith that God will work it out for us. Thanks for watching. And incidentally, I love John's treadmill story. To me, it's such a microcosm for the human condition. I think God put us on earth to see whether or not we choose to respond compassionately and constructively to the unfairness of life.